Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hollow Bone with Phoenix. If you're new to this, being the hollow bone means being a channel or a conduit for source energy where messages, healing, and miracles come through. Each week on this show, you can expect live channelings that open your heart and lift your energy, conversation with visionary leaders walking their own path of alignment, healing transmissions that flow directly through the hollow bone. Whether you tune in live or listen to the archives, every episode is a chance to receive guidance, expand your awareness, or align more fully with the miracles that are waiting for you. Today, I'm so excited to bring to you Brad Burchnell. He is a visionary leader walking his own path of alignment. He is a best-selling author, including the latest version 6 of the Mission Hope best-selling series, Every Heart Holds a Miracle. And his bio in this so completely and succinctly summarizes him. I just have to read you his bio because I couldn't possibly do it justice to make up my own. And when you hear this interview, it will make so much sense to you because he just starts right out the gate and he doesn't stop. He's wonderful to listen to. You're really going to enjoy this. Brad is a 6-time best-selling author, certified grief coach, and certified mental health first aider, and founder of From My Heart to Yours, LLC, which is based in Roseville, Michigan. He also holds a graduate certificate in biblical counseling from Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary, which he earned in 2025. With a deep understanding of suicide, loss, and the heavy toll that trauma takes on the soul, the mind, the body, and the spirit, Brad walks alongside others in their journeys of pain and restoration. His work is more than professional, it's deeply personal. He honors the memory of his late wife, Maria, his greatest joy, through her battle of cancer, and his late daughter, Beverly, whose life was tragically claimed by the darkness of suicide. Brad's life mission is to help others discover that healing and hope truly exist on the other side of suffering. Through compassion, guidance, and lived experience, he offers what he himself has found: the restoration of a joyful spirit and the assurance that no one has to walk through brokenness alone. Welcome, Brad, and you guys are in for a real treat today. Hi, Brad.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And you?
Ah, I'm sorry to be back in the United States from being down in Brazil for over a month. It was nice and warm.
And
Ah,
lots of love, it sounded like.
yeah, it was amazing. It was a very healing journey for me, and it was something that I'd promised Maria before she passed that I was going to end up going back down there, visit the
Oh,
family, and just go to the places and do the things that we had promised one another that we were going to do.
oh, that's so heartwarming. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's been a very weird landing coming back. It's funny when I was down there, I do speak Portuguese. My Portuguese is not as good as my family said. My family down there says my Portuguese is very good, and for me, I'm like, you guys are family. You're supposed to say that. But I think for the most part, I was able. I understand a lot. It's just my speaking portion is not as strong, although I can communicate fairly well. And there's things in my head that I can think. If I don't think about it, I'm fine. It's when I start translating from English to Portuguese that kind of gets me messed up.
I can
And
imagine.
but yeah, I think for me, when I landed back in Miami, I just said, "Gosh, I hate the Americans." Yeah, it was so much English, and the Brazilians really have a very it's a very different culture. It's very laid back. It's a very coffee centric, which means there's a lot of coffee that ends up happening, but it's also a very engaged and connected, a lot of discussion, a lot of conversations, a slower pace, which I love.
Yeah.
And coming back here, but the people are also dressed appropriately. I didn't
Mhm.
see anyone there walking around in their pajamas or unkempt. or
Half their clothing.
it was just dreadful. Coming back here, what landed and everything. Everything here when I landed in Miami. When you're just, for example, trying to get my my cell phone charged, it everything was broken. Almost every charger station was broken or very limited. The it was just
Wow.
overpriced. Down there. There's what they have for bakeries is called padarias, and so it's kind of a combination of a small grocery store, bakery, and restaurant. So for me, that's what I normally did about every few days. I said, I'm getting kind of low on a few things at the apartment, so I'd walk down there and pick up a few things. Fresh bread was pretty inexpensive. I mean, the entire time that I was down there, just on groceries for an entire month, I think I spent somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, less than $170
Oh,
American or less.
gosh.
Yesterday I went to the grocery store and picked up a few things as I was running low on a couple of things, and I spent nearly 150 for not a lot. So
Yes, it's
you know
crazy.
it's just it was just very unusual for me just to kind of just say, I miss it.
Yeah.
um but I miss the warmth of the people. I miss my family. I miss my family down there. It's just, my sister-in-law and my sisters-in-law. I got many. I have eight.
Oh
But
my.
the ones that I spent a great deal of time with, my three sisters-in-law, Pompea and Lola and Goretti. They're the ones that I spend a great amount of time with. And it's just, even with that, people say, oh, that's only a few. Yeah, but the family is huge. When we go to parties and we go to spend time at at their homes, you're dealing with people that are right around. There was, I don't know, the smallest was four. Um, but typically the regular parties, we were probably, more than 30.
Wow.
More than 30 typically is probably more, but you look at, try to see what type of impact that you had on your spouse and the people that you loved, and you just always wonder, gosh, did they know? um, and I had so many of my wife's family come up and just tell me stories about what she would say and how she felt about me, and how that she felt so loved, and that how special I was to her.
Oh,
And that was everything to me.
yeah.
So I have a ton of nieces and nephews, a lot, and I
Wow.
got to really embrace and enjoy the culture. I had an apartment that I rented down there. It was small, one bedroom, one bathroom. It was, there was a outdoor park that I walked at every day, and that had an outdoor gym. So I had weight equipment. So I worked out every day. I cooked for myself most every day, or I was, being with family, going to places, museums and cultural sites, and just spending time and just getting to know them. And then coming back here, I just recognized on how disconnected that the American people truly are.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate, because I look at, the things that were really special about the Brazilian culture, but also within, if I could mash the two countries together, it would be absolutely just amazing to me. Because when you look at how disconnected we are as a culture, and how young that we are relatively to the rest of the world, um, it also demonstrates some of the things that we really don't recognize within ourselves. For example, if if we if we really come together as a people, we love one another. We're very, in a lot of ways, we're very similar. Brazil, most people think, oh, it's a Latino culture. No, it's a very diverse, multicultural, ethnic diversity. I mean, um, in some cases, I was darker than a lot of Brazilians, because it just varies. You have descendants from Europe, from Germany, from Italy, from Greece, from Portugal, and then people that had come in from Japan, people that had come in from Africa. They also have, the scourge of slavery down there as well, from that background. And, when you look at those type of things, I met a lot of different people, and the warmth and the friendliness that they embrace is amazing. But it's such a diversity between the have and the have not.
Mm.
So if Americans would get out of the country a little bit and go to places that may not be as developed as themselves, they would come back with a real appreciation to say, what can I really do? How can I influence change? And I think that that's the one thing for me coming back is what are the influences of change that I could do in my little small part of the world? For example, this morning it was really odd. Just before I came on to meet with you, I was looking at my business email, and my account had been suspended
Oh
for
no.
for my business portion of it. And they said,
Oops.
well, it appears as though that you have deceptive business practices and some of this. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? So I had to do an appeal. They had to go ahead. I had to go ahead and I showed my letters of incorporation for my LLC. I also had to go ahead and show my IRS. So I'm waiting on my appeal. So it's just amazing that, on the level of, um, you know, all the things that people here just, well, you got to show me. And it's just really unfortunate. When I was down there, the Brazilian people, they just embrace you. They just embrace you as a friend. They just go, hey, come on, let's go. Let's sit down and have a cup of coffee. It's a hug, it's a handshake, and there's kisses on the cheek. So I mean, for me, I embrace the Brazilian community. I belong to a Brazilian Christian church up here in Michigan,
Yeah.
and that's a place that my late wife and I had attended for quite a while before she had passed. But that's also the place where she had embraced Christ as her Lord and Savior, and she had been before. But she asked, "Well, babe, what's this thing about baptism?" And I said, well, there's some things you could take a look at in scripture. So she started becoming a real student of the Bible. And she surprised me at the last retreat that we went to in 2023. She surprised me with getting baptized at the retreat. So for me, I was like, I had no idea she was doing that. My friends go, did you know she was going to do that? I said, I had no clue. So for me, it was a special treat. And I was able to go ahead and share that with her. So, and I think that that's just the whole circle for me in first meeting her. And for me, I met her. It will be, mm, see, it was almost 5 years ago. I met her on the first time May 6th of 2021.
Oh my goodness.
And met her off of an app. Her niece had actually set her up, and it was on one particular app called Bumble, and it was the only person that ever contacted me via that medium. So when we finally got together, the first time I met her, I'm like, going, oh my gosh, I was still broken from a lot of different types of things that I'd had in my life, much as I shared in my books. The latest one that I shared, Every Heart Holds a Miracle, in my chapter, the magic and miracle of connection, is my love story about how God led me to her, and what happened afterwards by me telling her after I met her is like, oh, you know what, I'm still too broken. I'm not ready to go ahead and do this, and I'm not going to put her through that. And it just kept in there and dealing with all my brokenness and the issues that I had when I finally reached back out to her with God's guiding. Brad, I gave you somebody that was truly amazing, and you need to reach back out to her. So I did. And her asking me, you haven't talked to me for months. Why would I want to get that? Why would I want to establish any type of relationship or friendship or anything with you? And I said, yeah, I said, I understand that. I said, but I've been praying awful lot. I said, God guided me back to you. And, uh, I said, I want anything more than just to have a wonderful friendship, because I just believe that, God directed me back to you. And she goes, well, I'm going to Brazil and I'm not going to be back until, till December. I said, okay. And so she contacted me and let me know. She goes, would you be willing to go ahead and meet at my church? And I said, well, that's fine. And she told me the name of the church. She wouldn't tell me. She goes, well, I don't know what the address is. You're going to have to find it.
All these
So
challenges.
I'm just like, going, okay. So I did find it, and I told her what time I was going to be there. So I got there early, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. I'm trying to look for this lady, and So I finally texted her. I said, "Listen, I'm outside." So I went inside and I'm just waiting for her. She comes out and I did. And she came out and I just hugged her.
Oh,
And I was just like going, and it just felt like home. And
yeah.
then when we sat in church next to each other, I just sat right up next to her and I took her in my hand and I said, "Yep, definitely home."
Oh,
And we spent the entire day together. And after that, and she goes, "Just leave your car here." She goes to drive my car and she's showing me where she lives. And I look at the house where she's living at and I'm like going, this is a mansion. Like, um, yeah, there, I said, I'm so out of her league. But I said, "Okay, God, I'm still trusting you. I'm still trusting you." And, we kept trying to find places during the height of COVID. Not a lot of places are open. I said, well, and it's pouring rain that
jeez.
day. So I'm just like going, oh my gosh, here we go. And so we're driving and we go by this one place that I wanted to take her to, but I didn't think it was open. It was open.
Oh,
So the name of the place is Eos Cafe, Eaeos, in right near my home. And we went inside and I'm ordering for her, and she has her hand on my small of my back, and I just, we're just, I'm just like going, oh yeah. And we sit down, we have our coffee, and I said, okay, God, I'm gonna go ahead and just say a prayer, just so I just told her all the good, the bad, and the ugly about my past, all my shortcomings, everything that I had done previously. And I just sat and I just was quiet. And I said, okay, in my head, I'm praying. I said, "You told me if this is the one, she's going to hear me, she's going to see me, and she's not going to judge me. And if that's not the case, then okay, I'll move on." And I remember her words. She just looked at me, she took my hands. She goes, "Bradley," she goes, "you're a good man. You've made mistakes in your past. You're not perfect, and I'm certainly not perfect. But, together we can be perfectly imperfect together."
oh,
And she's just wiping my tears. So I'm getting misty right now. I'm remembering
I
it.
can imagine.
Uh, but after that, we were together always. But she was going back down to Brazil. She was planning on being down there. She always left for the winter time. But we talked every day on WhatsApp. We would have cell phone calls. We would have text messages all the time. We would have video chats. It was something to me. It was really special. I had tons of pictures. I took tons of pictures when I was down there for that matter. So I remember the day that she got back. It was just, for me, it was just happy. Um, so we had such a blessed time together, even going through the time when she had cancer. The first cancer she was able to go ahead and beat. And I remember that first night that she had told me that she had colorectal cancer and she was afraid. She was afraid of that I would desert her. And I looked at her. I said, "You remember what I told you the very first Christmas dinner that we had together?" And her daughter looked, she goes, "What was that, Bradley?" And I said, "I'm not going anywhere." I says, this is marriage. This is what marriage is all about. This is about the good times, the bad times, every place in between." So, and her daughter said the same thing that she said that night. She goes, "Well, we'll see." So, so if her daughter couldn't make uh, doctor's appointments, I would arrange my schedule because at that time I was working pretty much 100% remote, so I could make my schedule however it was. And I told my boss and the HR director about what was happening and said, "Well, you do what you need to go ahead and do, and don't worry about it. Just get your work done." So I did,
Great.
and you know, it was we were managing things. The she kicked that in April of 2023, and you know things were amazing. I remember when she rang the bell. Matter of fact, I have video, and that's the only time that I have video of hearing her voice. So when I'm really missing her, I'm able to go ahead and hear her voice and actually see her live. I can
Oh,
still hear her. By the way, if there's things I'm really struggling with, I hear her in my head all the time.
yeah.
Um, so, and there's been things that she has been present for, even though that she doesn't know it. I have afterwards, I found things that she had in little messages that she left for me that
Oh,
I didn't even know that I had. They're all over. I have one that, she said, told me that she loved me, my love. in Portuguese. It's up on my wall.
Oh,
I have those. I have other little cards, little things that she wrote when I was going out shopping one day. I had failed to go ahead and get my quarter for all these, and I went back out to my car, and I've cleaned my car many, many times. And there was the back of her earring in the passenger seat.
wow.
Driving down to Indiana last August to get my degree for biblical counseling for graduation ceremony from seminary. I remember, it's just the sun was coming in. It was bright, sunny day. I was just entering into Indiana. Um, and I remember the sun was shining, and I remember looking over to the right to check mirrors, and there's this very long hair
Oh,
that's just in the breeze like this, that was poking out from the headrest.
oh.
And I'm like, you know what? I was like, that's not mine. That's Maria's. And the thing is,
Oh.
towards the end, Maria didn't have any hair. So I remember hearing that, seeing that, and I was like, going, okay, babe, I know you're with me, and I know that that day was going to be special for me, and I felt really at peace, even though there are really difficult days out there. I always feel her presence, even in the last moments. I remember, we, she wasn't feeling really well on May 12th. She was just wheezing a little bit. Wasn't didn't have So I was checking her O2 intake. I mean, her O2 had been really, really good. I checked her on a regular basis, and that day it was hypoxic. She was like at 88 at her SpO2 level, which was really good. So we did some breathing exercises, and it came back up a little bit, but it's kept becoming worse. She had diagnosed with small cell lung cancer um, in October of 2023. Funny thing is, October 2022, she was diagnosed with colorectal.
Oh my.
So she had battled that. So we're in our time of just having an amazing time together and just being blessed. I had asked her to marry me on September 30th of 2023. We were planning our wedding. We're planning our time together. We're looking at my retirement coming up in the next, few years. And so we have all these plans together, and she's not feeling well. They took her in, and, you know, I didn't really find out how bad it was until um, May 16th, when her daughter showed me her MRI, and it was everywhere.
Oh.
So for me, it was really difficult. And her daughter told me, she goes, Bradley, I didn't want to tell you because she needed hope, and I needed you to have hope for her.
Oh.
So it
Mm.
was just, I was there at the to be able to. I remember getting up. We had she had gotten, May 14th in the midday, she was really in severe pain, so they gave her a fentanyl patch just to get ahead and relieve pain, and she ended up falling into coma,
Oh.
falling asleep. Uh, Spent the entire time with her as much as I possibly could, and I remember being with her. I went back up to go ahead and see her, and I had the wedding rings with me just in case she woke up, you know, and she woke up on May 15th very briefly. It was just me and her in the room, just like it was when I asked her to marry me. And I held up our rings, and I said, babe, I said, let's just get married here. It's just you and me and God. And just shared my heart. And I said, "Did you marry me?" And she said, yes. So
Oh.
just shared my heart with her. And afterwards gave her a kiss. And then she fell back asleep, never to wake again. And I watched her breathe her last breath at 3:45 on May 17th.
Oh my goodness.
But I wouldn't have missed anything.
No.
And I think that that's where resilience and perseverance really comes into play, is if you can make it past some of those really hard moments. And losing my daughter, funny thing is, I lost my daughter May 28th, 2018 from suicide. So, those are the things that really define you, as far as for how are you going to show up and and what are the things that you can do in order to bring yourself into recovery. I didn't do very well after in 2018, just because there were just things that I was just broken and I just couldn't fix it. I couldn't fix my marriage at that time. I just, I couldn't fix my relationship with my two surviving kids. So I just had to say, okay, well, this is as good as it gets. So I moved into the house where I'm at now, and not expecting to find love again, let alone getting married a third time. I wasn't planning on that, but God had definitely other ideas. And before I had met Maria, before I met the group of Mission Hope, I had met another group of authors called From Scars to Stars, and before that, I had been interviewed on two other books. Uh, with Mariah and Byron Edgington with their book Journey Beyond, as well as um, Carrie Atherton in Australia. So I've shared my story with both of them, and both those books were bestsellers. Mm-hmm. And then my first book that I contributed to, Scars to Stars, Volume 2, that was also a bestseller. And then 6 bestsellers with Mission Hope. And probably this one's probably going to be my last with Volume 7. I'm also doing a solo work right now called Chrysalis that really addresses trauma recovery, and not just my story, but also talking about my dad and the trauma that he dealt with. And it's not my story as I look at the story of struggle with people and how that they can recover, how that they can actually see the tough times that they end up going through, and the growth to go ahead and realize that beauty is still there, irrespective of the challenges of life and irrespective of the damage that they feel that they can't feel, the shattering of those things that feel that they get bound by. Those are the things that I see in life as really noteworthy and really worthy of one another, to share our stories. That it may not help everyone, but if it helps one, that's an amazing thing. Absolutely. So I think that's where Mission Hope is so vital. But I think too is that I'm hoping that in what I share, that other people actually see themselves and can reflect in my words, that they say, gosh, you know what? If he can get through that, I can go ahead and get through some of my harder days. And each one of the stories I've had within in Mission Hope has been a direct result of Maria's strength. I remember the first few that I wrote, Maria would just look at them and just go, babe, can you go ahead and put these in Portuguese for me to read? So translating those into Portuguese. And I did that with some of my stories as well, with the family down in Brazil, where they're able to go ahead and read about some of the things. I think that those are things that are really noteworthy. When we had a call, I think recently with the group, one of the things that we had talked about was, how do we get our books out there in different languages? How is that best to be done? And those are things that I think we all pray about, is how do we get this into more hands? How do we make this a global community rather than just in English? Because I hate to say it, most Americans have this unconscious bias that if you don't speak English, you're uninformed. And I found just the opposite. We limit ourselves by our own notions that, if people don't understand English, then they don't know anything. What I've actually found that to be not the case whatsoever. My nephew Caillou, for example, he has his doctorate, he has PhD. He's teaching at University in Bahia. His wife, I should say my nephew-in-law Caillou, and my niece Camila is an architect. My other niece Lila is a she's in medical school for biomedical engineering. They're brilliant. They're just absolutely just brilliant. My late wife's son, Danilo, is an attorney and real estate broker. So I mean, they're just each person that I come in contact with within my family are amazing. Business owners, restaurateurs, working government. Uh, you know, you name it, they have done it. So for me, it's very eye-opening because I get an opportunity to go ahead and really interact with a very different community. So getting back to what I was talking about before, looking at, some different social media platforms. Instagram is one that I have a platform with, as well as Facebook, and I'm also on Alignable as well as LinkedIn. So recently on Instagram, there just happened to be something came across my feed with an advertisement called Spines, and it talked about, do you want to get your book out there in multiple languages? And one of the languages that they had, Portuguese.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to be looking at that as, but there's other avenues to take a look at that, publishing my book and my next book and how I'm going to go ahead and get that out. Originally, I thought that I was going to be more of a business kind of book person years ago because I had a lot of great experience and success in the manufacturing world by saving money, which saved a lot for a lot of different companies. When people say, "Oh, what does that look like?" Well, we're talking about the hundreds of millions of dollars. So
Significant.
it's not unsubstantial, but at the same time, be able to teach companies how to save money and how to know about their business and all of that. I've had a lot of experience in being able to do that, how to improve things, and you know, and ethics and compliance and those types of things. And those are important to me. That's a portion of my business outside within from my heart to yours. But more than anything else, it's about how do you deal with the aspect of trauma and people banning that around. So what does that look like? Well, I know for me, when I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2021, at the end of 2021, and I went on FMLA to deal with that. It was from, multiple losses, from divorce, from the loss of my daughter, from you name it. It was just so much, I think, self damage that you need to take a breath and really just say, I need help. And not, and unfortunately, men are not really good about doing that because society tells us how we're supposed to be. Other men tell us how we're supposed to be. I was in the military for 15 years, so that there's a lot of places that we don't necessarily feel that we have a place that we could say, okay, I can go ahead and let my guard down and I can just feel who I am. So for me, that was, I don't even look at it so much as trauma, more than I needed respite and I needed time to go ahead and just, I hate to say it, not relax, but just really decompress. So, and allow other people. And I let my brother in. My brother, my brother is amazing. He's been, Brian, I'm sorry if you hear this and you're mad at me, that's okay. But my brother's been clean and sober for, oh gosh, I wish I could tell you how long, over 20 years.
Wow.
So so when I told him what went on, and he said, "Well, tell me what's going on." So I ended up just telling him what ended up happening to me and what I was struggling with, and some of the things that I was looking at doing and not doing, and how I just didn't feel like I had anything else to offer to anyone, let alone being, still being in the world. And he was just like going, "Yeah, welcome to the club."
It
you know,
helps to be understood.
he is just, my brother's just, we're very different. He's a man of few words, and he's just very stoic. So, you know, he just said, "Listen, Brad," he said, "you call me anytime. I don't care what time it is, just call me." He goes, "I get it." And there was a lot of time. Yeah, I called him a lot. I did. I called my brother, didn't know what time of day it was. I just, hey, listen, I'm struggling. He would just answer the phone.
Good.
So, you know, I think that's where society has really done men a disservice and really society's a disservice because we don't uh, we don't allow places for people. I'm not even saying men. I don't think we allow spaces for people to feel. I hate using the word because I think it's overused, but the word safe, where they just feel that they can be respected and not be judged and not have it their emotions or their situations or their sharing as a weapon sometime in the future. So, and I think that that's where men as a whole, they don't feel that they have that place where they can say, you know what, um, yeah. I remember one time I was seeing this one therapist and it was female. By the way, not saying that there's not good female therapists out there that can work with men. I'm just saying my experience personally, it's been a 50-50 deal.
Yeah.
The last one that I dealt with was not very good. So there was a point in time when, there was a certain issue that ended up coming up. And so I could just tell the shift in the interactions just by body language and everything else. Very dismissive. So I ended up finding a therapist that was in, you know, that was in network for my health plan. And by the way, if there's people out there that are judging me, that's your problem, not mine. I'm an advocate of good coaches being out there and good therapists. But if one doesn't work for you, find another. They're not all in the
Absolutely.
same boat. So
That's
I was very fortunate. I'll talk about the good therapist. Name it by name. Michael Lamorato. He is an amazing, amazing individual. Introduced me to a different group of individuals. Trevor Bohm uh, founded uh, Uncivilized the Uncivilized Nation, which is Man Uncivilized, which is really dealing with an awful lot of issues of breaking down barriers within um, male misperceptions and actual inward healing. So much so that when I was back in California in December of 2020 with my brother and my mom, that there was a believe it or not, there was a breathing and a symposium online, and Leela Dilla, who is an amazing breathwork practitioner. She's on LinkedIn. If anybody's out there, you need to go ahead and follow her. She's amazing. But we did a breathwork. So for me, it was just, finding different things to heal our bodies and it helped me realize some of the places where things originated from. So when you find those places where things originate from, it's a place that's your foundation. That's your place to start saying, oh, that's where that came from. Oh, that's why I think that way. So when you look at those things and you find a group of people that you can be with, um, today, I'm no longer in therapy. I stopped that, oh gosh, over a while ago, but I'm still, really good friends with my therapist because we still have an alumni group that we participate with, that we mentor other men. And since I'm retired now, I'm able to go ahead and be a partner and mentor that I can end up doing things. But the amazing thing is when, I talk to Mike now is he goes, Brad, he goes, I've been doing this for a long time. And he said, a lot of people that have history of PTSD, they really don't come through it. He said they'll still have times when they go hypervigilance, all the type of symptomology that is associated with PTSD. And he goes, it's interesting. He goes, I don't see that in you whatsoever.
wow.
So I look at that as a miracle within me. It's like, oh, I feel fine. There's days when, you get sad. I miss Maria. There's no doubt about it that I miss my girl. And there's days when, I get really sad,
Yeah.
but you know what? That's normal.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so I look at those things. So if you can find a community that accepts you, I got accepted in that community, I accepted in the Brazilian community, which honestly I feel more comfortable in. than I do Americans for the most part, just because most of my very dear friends in my extended family, they're Brazilian. So for me, that's my community. That's where I feel most comfortable at.
Yeah.
But also within my men's group too, I don't feel like I have to put on a show for anything. I'm just who I am. People don't like it. That's okay. Um, and I sorry, I hijacked it a little bit. I don't know what we were going to be talking about.
Oh,
So,
no, we were going to talk about all these things, so you
you
read
know,
my mind.
so it is interesting, when I look back in time, even my writing style has changed. Everybody says it, well, everybody, authors, they said, be genuine, be authentic with your own voice. And when I first started writing, I'm like going, I have no idea what my voice is.
No, right?
I was like going, yeah, I just want to go ahead, you know, I wanted to sell books. I was like, oh, I just want people to buy them. Um, I'm not really good at selling. I'm
Mm,
good at writing.
yeah,
Sometimes I'm good at marketing, but I think I'm better at interacting on a one-on-one just because I I really prefer to listen. And that's also what's been really good for me for learning a different language. You really have to listen.
it's true.
When Maria and I first started going to the Brazilian Christian Church, which is the name of the church I go to in Troy, um, they asked me, they knew I was American. And I, Maria and I I started practicing. I started learning from her, doing some minor types of things, greetings and little minor interaction. But when I started going through Duolingo, using that as an app, it helped. And she would practice her English that way, and then I would practice my Portuguese. But then I said, I really want to become fluent, you know. But when I went to the first time we went, they asked me, did you want to go ahead and use they had a hearing device you could listen to where it would translate Portuguese into English. And I said, no, that's okay. I said, are you sure? I said, yeah. I said, I'm going to let my heart, you know, um, translate because if I was going to be in that environment, I wanted to do that. So, um, we would just, I'd have my app out for translation. If I got kind of stuck with something, I'd turn it on a little bit. And now I don't at all. But I thought, if our hearts can really understand other people, that was to me was more important. So that's what I looked at, and that's what I wanted for me. So now I think that's lent me well. Um, I find that when I'm really struggling, I'll listen and sing to Brazilian worship music, just because it's my preferred language. Even though I'm not fluent, I still try. I have a Portuguese teacher who's originally from the state of Sao Paulo in Brazil, from the city of Campinas. And she lives not too far from where I'm here at in Michigan. Her husband is in the automotive industry and been at their home many times to have dinner with them. And just everything's in Portuguese. As a matter of fact, it's funny. The first time that I remember when Maria and I were here at the house, she goes, okay, babe. She goes, for the next half hour, no English.
Kind of a
And I
tall
looked at
order.
her, and it was hard. It was so hard, you know. And I think now it would be much easier because, there's times I get stuck, especially when I was with my sister-in-law down in Brazil, and we'd be in the car together and we'd be talking, and she goes, "What?" And I was just like going, and I would just say, "Okay." So I'd look for the right words, and I put it in the translation. I go, and in Brazilian, it said, "Look at this is olha só." So I just show her the translation. She goes, "Ah, yes, 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 yes." So we would just sit there. We would just chit chat away, and I still about 90 to 95% of the time I understand pretty well. Um, so when when we look at things, I think that Americans don't understand one another because we're not listening.
Yeah.
It's not about that we don't hear it. It's just that we don't listen. There's a difference. We can sense when something's auditory coming into our ears, and we go, yeah, but are we hearing to respond, or are we listening to absorb and understand?
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that's the biggest issue that I end up seeing within our culture. There's such a huge divide. Um, I had a friend of mine said, "Well, you ever think about um, dating again?" Um, and at the time, I said, "No, not really, unless it's God's plan to go ahead and give me another uh, someone exactly like Maria." That was also Brazilian. I mean, I just have people say, "Is that your preference? You don't want to date Americans again?" I said, "Well, not really. I just see what there's such a huge dichotomy between that." And I said, "No, not for me."
Mhm.
Um, I think that there is a general um, divide amongst all people, and really, that's largely a big problem within our um, within our nation, and really within the world. Americans versus everybody else, states against states, politics. It's how can we win. It's not about how can we how can we bring people together. I look at that as a major problem. People say, well, Brad, well, how can you say that? Are you this, or are you that? You know, I have pretty strong, you know, I guess I have pretty strong beliefs in what I think governance should be, and what I think that the Americans should be. My dad used to call it the American experience. My dad was a history teacher. He served in the military during Korea. So when you look at the American experience, what he would call it, I look at it the same way. It's also what I think John F. Kennedy talked about, the same thing, is the American experience, and also what Ronald Reagan would talk about that as well. So I'm dating myself, but we don't understand what it takes in order to build. My friend Andrea Sanchez, she's an amazing individual that she espouses kindness, which she typically does kindness, 15 minutes of kindness a day, which for me is amazing.
Yes.
And I think that it's also, you take a look at what that means. It's just recognizing that people have differences, how they see things, how they view you, how they view situations, and it's bringing things together rather than dividing. So, and I think that coming back to mission hope too is the same thing. Is how do we give hope? How do we reinstill those things?
Yeah.
I've been going through my writing for my next ad within volume 7,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm really kind of just starting with the story of my dad and how that comes about.
Mhm.
Uh, my dad was a very unique individual. People see things after. My dad, if you looked at my dad in a pit, I have one of his pictures when he was a little boy. His family were sharecroppers. They were very poor. If people have in their mind of the show The Waltons, they would be rich compared to my dad's
Mhm.
family. Um, it was more like Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer. The one picture I show of my brother's, um, my dad's sisters, for example, um, and all of them barefoot, dirty, not very poorly dressed. Dad's overalls, one of the one of the things flapping down, one of the straps was undone, things flapped down. Um, you know, it's a very his mixed heritage, and I'm really not. You hear things from your parents, but you're really not sure because there's no way to vet it out. The only thing I can tell you is that what my dad claimed, because I can't actually verify it, but my dad said he was half Irish and half Native American. I can't the Irish part, yeah, I can absolutely know that. The Native American part, I have no clue. I can only go by what his word was. But he lost his sister and his father in a fire in 1943.
Ooh.
Uh, his mom was illiterate, was not very bright, And it was a common practice that if the surviving parent had no means to take care of children, they were made wards of the court and were put into orphanage, what they called Children's Home Society in Ohio. So my dad was placed in that environment, um, beaten regularly. His sister was in there. His sister was adopted, never found her again, and he was in the orphanage until he got out to join the Navy to go to Korea. His intent was to die there. He had nothing left. He almost did a number of times. So it wasn't until years later that I had gone into ancestry.com and left something, and one day you know I come home and my ex-wife gave me this big fat letter, and she goes, "Who is Carol Rodaba?" And I go, "I have no clue. I have no idea who this is." And she goes, "Well, I want to know who it is. You need to open it right now." So I opened it, and lo and behold, there was. She goes, "Hey, listen, I saw that you had left something on, um, ancestry.com, and you were looking for, you know, Anna Burchnell." And she goes, "That was my mom."
Oh my gosh.
So it was. I was just stunned. She left me a message. We got on the phone and talked for a long time. She was in just north of Chicago, and I live here in Michigan. And my one daughter, she had stuff that was going on. My youngest had stuff that was going on, but my other daughter, Lizzie, I said, "Hey, you want to go, you know, meet your Papa Chuck's, his niece, was my cousin." And she goes, "Well, that'd be interesting." So we went and met Carol and her husband and her family. And it was, and her sister, my other, you know, um, who is also named, her name was Elizabeth. And so Carol and Elizabeth, my cousins, unfortunately, Carol passed due to cancer a few years ago. But I looked at that. It was amazing. I got pictures both of me and my cousins together. And I thought to myself, how amazing is that to be able to go ahead and rejoin the family? So, that's I look at these types of things in my life as amazing. Uh, my family, the American family here is very, very small, very small. But my Brazilian side of the family is absolutely just huge. It was something that I'd always wanted. So for me, family is everything. So when I ended up coming back, and after, I officially retired January 2nd of this year. Unofficially, I left my corporate role as in quality document control manager and ethics compliance officer for the company that I was working at on December the 12th. On December the 15th, I was on a plane going to Brazil.
Didn't waste any time.
No, I didn't. That was planned. So I landed in December 16th. I had made all my arrangements for a place to stay, and it was a little unnerving. I remember my sister-in-law. She texted me. She goes, "Meet me out in front." She goes, "I picked you up some groceries, so you made sure that you have, you know." So she dropped off groceries. I said, "Well, let me pay you." She goes, "No." I go, "You're just like your." I said, "You're just like." I said, "You're just like Fatima." And by the way, all of the sisters, their first names are Maria.
Yeah. Yes.
So the middle name is typically the name that they go by. So I always call it, for me, I rarely use Maria. When I married Maria up here, I never called her other than Babe. We never called each other by our names unless one of us was in trouble, and usually it was me. Um, so I said, "Hey, where are you?" She goes, "Oh, I'm up front and porch." She goes, "Just coming out." I said, "You gonna come up?" She goes, "No." And she goes, "Just dropping you off groceries. Can I give you money?" She goes, "No." And I was like, "Oh, you sound just like your sister." And so I go back upstairs, and unpack. I get everything put away, and I just thought to myself, I was going, "This is just what family does,"
Yeah.
down here. And every day that I was down there was just apt for me. It was just amazing. It was a little unnerving, at least initially. Because the first couple of days I had the worst headache.
Oh.
I think a lot of it just had to do with the fact of being in a plane for a very long time because I flew from here to Miami, and then Miami to um, where did I land in? Rio de Janeiro. And in Rio de Janeiro, I had to go through immigration and customs down there. Then I had to go pick up my suitcases, and then to pick up my suitcases, I had to go ahead and drop those back off to the re-entry point for my bags to get back onto the plane to fly down. And the interesting thing down in Brazil, it's very easy. You didn't have to go back through um, security again because you're in a controlled environment the entire time. Up here, it's a little bit different. Here you had to pick up your bags. It was, pick up your bags, you drop it off out of it. But up here, you had to go back through TSA.
Yeah.
I was just fortunate that I had TSA pre-check. Uh, it was very fast for me to go through. But I think that's still, that just, shows the relationship on what happens within two different countries and how that they view people. Um, I remember when I was going through immigration down in Brazil, and they asked me if I spoke Portuguese. I said, yeah, they pronounce, você fala português? I said, eu falo português, mas mais e menos. Não, no,
Somewhat.
no bem, no bem. So basically, I said, yeah, I can speak, not too well, but I can understand well. I can, it's not too bad. They looked at me for the first time. You're American. I go, I'm American. And they just look at it. They go, really? And this is my accent. They go, your accent sounds like you're from Sao Paulo. And I go, well, my Portuguese teacher, she's from Campinas in Sao Paulo. And they go, this is not normal for a lot of Americans. And I experienced those types of things when I did there. One of my favorite stories that I told my family is I was down, there's a padaria that, like I said, that I talked about that's right near the apartment. I talked about my home down there when I was there. And I got to be good friends with some of the cashiers down there and just know them by where they were from. And I remember there was a day that there was an American that was there, and I have my stuff, and they're just they're looking at their app and they're trying to go, and I just looked at the guy and I said, you American, or you speak English? And he goes, yes. And he goes, what about you? And I said I'm American. I said, so what are you looking for? What do you need? And and the cashier just looked at me, and it's the first time she'd heard me speak English.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, and I just looked at her. I told her in Portuguese. I said I can help. And he just goes, well, I'm looking. He says, looking for these types of foods. And looking for this. I don't know what to do. So I said, okay. So I gave the cashier my uh, my order I had in my little basket, and I said, I'll be right back. So I'm helping the guy, help him understand what he needs. And I said, do you understand the currency and those type of things? Yeah. He goes, I don't have a lot of money. I said, did you tell your bank you were going to be down here? He goes, oh yeah. He says, I told my bank. I said, no problem. I says, they accept, down here. He says, what you're gonna want to do? They'll say, they're going to ask you debit or credit, debit or credit. And I said, it's easier for you to do credit because it's easy. And I said, and they'll give you the option either in uh, Brazilian real, or it's going to be in US dollars. I said, you get to choose. So I helped him through. He got his thing, and they had just landed, I think, the day before, so they didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
And he was just his wife sent him out for things, and they're looking for breakfast type of things. I said, well, you're not going to find bacon. I said, you're going to find ham. I said, you find eggs. And he just goes, do they have bread? I go, oh, they have great bread. I said, you never. So I'm like, I've been eating this food for like, going on, 5 years. So 4.5 years. So I'm like, going, okay, here, this is good. I said, come back here. I said, you're looking for easy meal. I said, you want to bring your family out here, you can end up having breakfast here, you can have lunch, you can have dinner. There's a lot of different places. They had the street where I was at, Rua do Futuro, that I stayed at when I was down there, had so many restaurants, so many different things that I could do. And it's one of the safest areas to be in.
Nice.
But I think that those are things that great experiences for people and a lot more stories for me to gather. But really the upshot really for this is the time when I was down there. It took it brought me back to the place where I didn't forget where I was at in connection and dealing with people and listening and taking time and being outside. Since I've been back in the States, it's been a little rough when you're outside all the time and it's warm and your sister-in-law says, come on, let's go,
Yeah.
or your other family members say, hey, listen, we're going to the beach, we're going to come pick you up, or we're sending a Uber for you. By the way, I'm never driving down in Brazil. There's no way. At
No.
least not where I was at. I was in the northeastern part, and I was at the um, state capital city of Recife. In I see where we're at. We're good. We're good on time. The
Yeah, yeah,
10.
we have 2 minutes left, so you're
Yeah.
good.
So I think for me is once you end up looking at those things and slowing down and getting back to connection, those are things that are the most important. Being back here is just you're very isolated. Being inside all the time. I was outside 100%, almost 100% of the time when I was down there, interacting with people, picking up fresh fruit on the street, fresh eggs, uh, coconut water, going to the beach, and just enjoying life and just life simple pleasures. Here, it's more, it's materialism, disconnection, and isolation. That's why we're having the problems that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, so you found a place that has open hearts, and they
Hmm.
listen with their hearts. And there are places and people in the States like that too, but not the norm. Yeah,
No, not
absolutely.
at all. And honestly, I'm looking at a permanent move at some point
Yeah,
in the next couple of years.
I could tell. You just love it so much down
I
there.
do. I do.
And why not be where you can thrive? Because, as you know, the world's really a small place and you can do your service work from anywhere.
I can. I
Hmm.
can.
Hmm.
Absolutely can.
Uh, you have just been amazing. I didn't need to say anything. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry if I did this a little bit.
Oh no, it was perfect. I loved the full circle. That was perfect. And how you
Appreciate that.
continue to help people is really amazing and wonderful. And your story it gives people hope and inspires them to not give up, even when
I
things are the darkest.
I hope so. I really hope so. That's my goal.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Thank you so much, Brad.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Oh, I appreciate you too. This has just been wonderful. And so I know our listeners are going to love this. So
Well, I
thank you
hope
so
so. I hope
much.
you do. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. God bless you.
God bless you.